Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. All people. The #1 player in the cultivation world. Chapter 101. The man who was in the study just now was still sweating from his back. He was puzzled in his heart. How could the great power with purple patterns and 5 flowers come to my small place? The purple pattern is the purple flower in the middle. Wuhua is the 5 great beasts of Qinglong, Baihu, Suzaku, Xuanwu and Qilin, and it is also the symbol of the 5 most powerful continents. Not everyone knows Nanchengxing. There are many monks from other continents here, so they can only judge the person's origin by the patterns on the sleeves. He hurriedly took out the jade slips and frantically searched for the big bosses in Ziwen. Judging by the person's appearance and attire, he should be from the Xuanwu continent. Soon, he found Nanchengxing's face. Star Venerable. It turned out to be Star Venerable. I can actually see Star Venerable himself in my lifetime. God, am I too lucky? After saying these words, he immediately ran to find his Shangfang, ready to report the matter. Here, Nanchengxing is also explaining to Zhang Shuyu the patterns corresponding to military achievements. The white flower in the middle is the soldier, the blue flower is the non-commissioned officer, the green flower is the company commander, the red flower is the commander, and the purple flower is the general. The surrounding patterns are different, but there is one thing in common, that is, 10 are used as a unit, and as long as you collect 10, you can upgrade. Young man, do a good job. As long as you collect 10 patterns, you can become a non-commissioned officer. Nanchengxing's tone was like that of an old elder. But he does have this qualification. Although he is not old, his strength is very strong. Especially the battle when he was honored as the Star Lord. Back then, 3 demon kings sneaked into the back of the front line in the demon cave and found a weak city. Just when they led an army of hundreds of thousands of demons to destroy a city and devour hundreds of thousands of people, the Star Venerable fell from the sky. Just at the critical moment, Xingzhen slashed the galaxy. Block the way forward of the 3 big devils, and the other little devils and monsters will not be able to advance an inch. In the end, Xingzhen fought the 3 demon kings to the death, and 2 of the 3 demon kings were killed, and the last one escaped because Xingzhen was unprepared. In that battle, no Faxiu followed him, and no output accompanied him to defeat the enemy. He was the only one. From then on, the city lord and monks of that city erected a huge statue for Xingzhen, and the city was changed to Nanxing City, named after him for the admiration of the world. This glorious deed was known to everyone in the firmament realm, and no one did not recognize his honorific title. It can be said that the respect Nanchengxing received was all earned by his life. Xuanwu Hall. Although this hall is named Xuanwu, it is not a place of office, but the martyrs of our Xuanwu continent. Nanchengxing brought Zhang Shuyu here, and the journey was unimpeded. Looking at the rows of tablets, for some reason, Zhang Shuyu burst into tears. With a big move, Nanchengxing took out 6 sticks of incense and lit them. Come, offer incense to the ancestors. Yes. Zhang Shuyu raised his hands, bowed his head respectfully to receive it, and bowed 3 times following Nanchengxing. Just listen to Nanchengxing speak. Xuanwu Jr. Nanchengxing, I beg the mainland ancestors to take care of my Xuanwu incense. After Xingzhen repeated this 3 times, the clouds and smoke above all the tablets gathered, and a golden tower appeared in front of the 2 of them. This is the demon suppressing tower. You take out a strand of your soul and put it inside. Yes. After Zhang Shuyu did so, Nanchengxing explained. If you are in danger or even die in the land of Shira, with this ray of spirit, we can resurrect you. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Shuyu noticed that on Nanchengxing's sleeve, the symbols of the 5 continents had changed into 4. That mark is the corresponding military merit. Zhang Shuyu didn't know how to calculate how many demons Xingzhen killed in exchange for this move. He suddenly understood what Xingzhen's actions just now symbolized. Suddenly, the tip of his nose became sour, and he bowed down to salute sincerely. Disciple Zhang Shuyu, thank you Xingzhen. You little guy, what is this for? It's so touching. Nanchengxing suddenly seemed to see an old acquaintance, sniffed and turned his face away. Soon he recovered his mood and laughed. When you go to the battlefield, you must pay attention to safety. There are too many cunning monsters. If you are a man, kill me. Well, this disciple respectfully obeys the order of the Star Lord. Zhang Shuyu's eyes were firmer than ever, and his whole body was full of righteousness. Okay, Now I'll tell you about the situation in Shira's land. Nan Chengxing sat on the ground, and Zhang Shuyu also sat down. You should know that the land of Shira is the front line of the war between the human race and the demon's nest, right? After the land of Shira is the demon's nest. The Great Wall you saw just now was built by the human race, but the Great Wall in Xuanwu continent is relatively strong, so there are very few incidents. But the strength of other continents is a bit weak. The Great Wall is not as strong as ours, so it is often harassed by demons. I told you before that there are many dungeons and secret realms here, but the demon bosses in the Devil's Cave will not allow the human race to enter the dungeon or secret realm so easily, because after the human race obtains the treasure, it is very unfavorable to them. Almost every dungeon entrance is guarded by monsters, some will directly block the door, and some will attack you suddenly when you are about to enter, so Shuyu, you have to be extremely careful. After entering the land of Shira, you need to bring a teleportation talisman. Because of the intrusion of demon energy, the teleportation talisman is sometimes unstable. You should bring more to be prepared. By the way, the demonic energy is relatively strong in the land of Shira, so you should bring some Qingxin pills just in case. Nan Chengxing couldn't help but chattered. The disciples have memorized it all, but what if the number of time talismans is used up? Zhang Shuyu choked out such a sentence. Ah, I really forgot to tell you this. There are senior formation masters in our Xuanwu camp. You can find them, but they generally don't want spirit stones and prefer some materials, so you can ask them when the time comes. Of course, if you really can't find anyone, you can also directly use the teleportation array we came to teleport back to the Holy Land, but the contribution value is a bit too much. After sending off Xingzhen, Zhang Shuyu came to the Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce in the camp. The Xuanwu Chamber of Commerce at the border is somewhat different from that in the mainland. Many things that are not available in Xuanwu continent can be bought here, but there are military rank requirements, so the things he can buy are only mediocre. Zhang Shuyu knows very well what those unique things are. These are exclusive things for the army, and they were called military supplies in his previous life. But he really doesn't have anything he wants to buy right now. Worried Star Father. In the end, Zhang Shuyu only bought 10 teleportation symbols and spent 100,000 spirit stones. As for Qingxin pill, he has no plans to buy it, because his current defense is broken, so there is no need for it. He saw some weapons, which they used in the Shira land, which can cause additional damage to the demon bosses, but his pattern level is not enough. No wonder Xingzhen asked him to prepare more spirit stones, it seems that he has great confidence in him. Then he can't live up to Xingzhen's expectations. After going around the camp, Zhang Shuyu was ready to go directly to the land of Shira. Little brother, it's too dangerous outside. The lowest level of Warcraft is LV.36. You should not go out. Are you brought by the elders of the family? You still have to be careful, otherwise what should you do if something goes wrong? The guards around the camp are all monks who are above LV.50 and have stepped into the second level. The isolation jade pendant on Zhang Shuyu's body is not effective at all. Zhang Shuyu knew that the other party was doing it for his own benefit, and he didn't explain his own strength. He just opened his mouth lightly and cupped his fists. Thank you for your concern, senior. This junior is just going out to have a look, and won't cause trouble. The guard seemed to have seen many people like this before, and he could tell that his tone was determined, so he stopped blocking him. Hey, okay, then you have to be careful. If there is any danger, quickly trigger the teleportation talisman and come back. Okay, I get it. After Zhang Shuyu nodded in response, he left this place. Another angry young man, I hope nothing happens to him. The guard looked at his back with a sad expression on his face. Every year, there are many young people like this who want to go out to explore by themselves, but most of them are above LV.36. And most of them will choose to go together. Like this, it is the first one who is less than LV.36 and still alone. The guard at the side said in relief, oh, don't worry, this little guy probably has the treasures given by the elders on him, so he should be fine. 2. The guard nodded. At this moment, both of them believed that he might be the son of some family, so they were confident. After Zhang Shuyu, another group of people left the city. The sight here is too bad, right? I can't see anything clearly, and the smell is too bad. Zhang Shuyu was a little helpless, so he transformed a mask with spiritual energy, and he felt much better in an instant. Masks are really a universal protective tool. Suddenly the 6-segment armor on his body began to flash a dark light, which was a sign of being attacked. But there are no monsters around him. Blue Duanjia was shining all the time, and Zhang Shuyu's frown deepened. Could it be that the monsters here are still invisible? Swish. The undead puppets who were exploring the way in front suddenly turned their heads and slashed at Zhang Shuyu with their swords raised. Of course they will not hurt Zhang Shuyu. Ah! A sharp scream almost pierced Zhang Shuyu's eardrum. I saw a black shadow in front of him gradually coalescing together, forming the appearance of a man without a face. The planning of this game depends on Hayao Miyazaki. You are a fellow. LV.36 Shira Wraith's figure is still translucent, and will soon turn from black to transparent again. Its skill is immune to add damage. But its average data is only 5,000, Zhang Shuyu decided to let the undead puppet clean it up. However, the swords of the undead puppet all swung towards it. With experience, it had already activated its skills, and the blade of the sword passed through its body shiningly. Instead, the undead puppet was injured. Zhang Shuyu acted decisively and summoned several ghost magicians. Thunderbolt. Ah! After another scream, Zhang Shuyu received a reminder. Kill LV.36 Asura Wraith Ghost, experience plus 360000, get Remnant Soul 1. Close black lens bracket. Remnant souls are unique fragments of dead souls in Shira land. As long as enough are collected, they can be used to strengthen weapons. Zhang Shuyu didn't know how much he needed to collect, so he decided to collect them all. But since there are monsters that are immune to AD in the land of Shira, there are also monsters that are immune to AP. He simply summoned a few ghost magicians to surround him. This place is extremely wide. After thousands of years of war, the smell of blood is extremely strong. This is the breath of the battlefield. It is said that after going deep into the hinterland of the Asura land, you can see the entrance of the magic cave, but there is no record of when the magic cave existed in the cultivation world. As Zhang Shuyu went farther and farther, he encountered more and more grieving ghosts. They seem to be regardless of race, whether they are humans or demons, as long as they appear near them, they will be attacked. Maybe they have formed another race alone, Shira. In addition to the grieving ghost, there are other existences with different appearances. Of course, although their appearances are different, they have one thing in common, that is, they are full of resentment and smell of blood on their bodies. There are monsters that look like a pile of broken copper and iron, and there are monsters with big black eyes but a tiger body. In short, Zhang Shuyu's common sense has been updated. Some of the tough ones are so devilish that it takes a dozen or so undead puppets to attack them for a long time before they can be killed. And there are quite a few monsters like this. Even after the cooling time has passed after they are eliminated, they will still be refreshed. To be precise, it should be a monster bred in the land of Shira. After sweeping for an unknown amount of time, Zhang Shuyu encountered other human teams. Seeing a little white flower roaming the battlefield, those people were a little surprised, but seeing how many summoned creatures he had, they no longer worried about him in an instant. There are so many summoned creatures, so why worry? Looking at the blue mask on Zhang Shuyu's mouth and nose, it turned out to be exactly the same out of curiosity. It still has this effect. I feel that the air in my mouth is much cleaner. Zhang Shuyu naturally noticed, and those people also clasped their fists to thank him from afar. Phew, I've been gone for almost 3 hours, so I should meet the dungeon soon, right? Zhang Shuyu wiped the sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. The turbid air not far away is swaying. Just when Zhang Shuyu was waiting for some kind of monster, 3 figures appeared. Run, little brother. The devil in the devil's lair is chasing you. A sword cultivator wearing an aura mask saw Zhang Shuyu, quickly reminded him, and then ran away with his partner in a panic. And next to him were a Faxiu and a shooter. They were not strong enough to speak, and they only gave Zhang Shuyu a running look. However, the moment they turned their heads, Zhang Shuyu's face showed the expression of broken iron shoes and nowhere to find. Is his other purpose of coming to the land of Asura to be achieved so soon? I read a novel about cultivating immortals before. The heroine uses spiritual energy to shield the miasma. I didn't expect to be able to use it one day. He came to the land of Asura for two purposes. Besides making a dungeon, he also came to meet the demon boss of the demon cave. After all, Shingzhen specifically mentioned him, and the demons who appeared in the land of Shira were of mediocre strength. For Zhang Shuyu, Zhang Shuyu was not worried about meeting the devil here, but was looking forward to it. The turbid air twisted for a while, and a voice came out of it. Ah, Zhang Shuyu was all too familiar with this deep voice. It turned out to be wolves. It seems that there are a lot of them. Sure enough, the turbid air burst open in an instant, revealing the contents inside. LV.37 Bloodthirsty Demon Wolf. Except for the lowest mental power, which is only 2,400, the other values are all 6,000. Being provoked by the detection technique, almost all the demon wolves turned their heads, looked at Zhang Shuyu squarely, and stared at him. The group rushing to the front immediately turned around and ran over. Zhang Shuyu could clearly see that the fangs of the 8 demon wolves in front of him still had torn clothes on them. These demonic wolves eat people. Zhang Shuyu's gaze was tinged with coldness, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. The undead puppets felt Zhang Shuyu's emotions, and immediately rushed towards the demon wolves holding their swords. Even in one-on-one, those demon wolves can't beat the undead puppet at all, because the stats of the undead puppet are almost 3 times that of theirs. Soon, the magic wolves were all beaten to the ground. And the ghost magicians were not to be outdone, and wanted to express themselves, so they took action one after another. I saw Mantian's skills flying across the air, falling to the ground, and hitting those demon wolves. Ah! A demonic wolf uttered a long cry, and then returned to the land of Shira with its soul. Kill LV.37 Bloodthirsty Demon Wolf, experience plus 370000, points plus 1. It turns out that this is military merit. Zhang Shuyu could feel the pattern on his arm absorbing something. It seems that we still have to kill monsters. Zhang Shuyu knew it in his mind, and since that was the case, he would not show mercy to these monsters. He threw his spiritual power on the wolf, and then heard an explosion. Bang! All the turbid air around was bounced away, revealing a clearer picture. The demon wolf who had not yet died was affected, and was immediately smashed to pieces. The rest of the demon wolves who were still chasing the 3 of them all turned their heads and looked at Zhang Shuyu with hatred. Without thinking about it, they rushed towards the target immediately. It's a pity that before they got close to the target, something just thrown into the air exploded and they were killed. The points increased sharply to 30, a pattern gradually took shape, and there was a phantom. When Zhang Shuyu regretted that there were not enough magic wolves, the 3 rescued people all looked at him dumbfounded. At this moment, they had already forgotten to thank them, and all their minds were, what's going on? What happened? We survived. The aftermath of the explosion had dissipated, and the turbid air gradually surrounded them. After Zhang Shuyu clasped his fists at the 3 of them, he disappeared into the turbid air without being seen. The 3 of them came back to their senses immediately. Is that high-level monk just now? That's amazing. Before I saw that he had many summoned creatures, I thought his strength was not very good, but I didn't expect all of them to be so fierce. Gulu, yes, this is too scary. I think he's more like a rare monk. But our lives are finally saved, let's go back to the camp first. Oh, yes, if those comrades hadn't stopped those demon wolves for us, we would have died long ago. They didn't dare to go up to Zhang Shuyu to thank him, because in this place, the ranks of the monks with a higher level of cultivation and the lower level monks are different, and the status is there. But these Zhang Shuyu is not clear. Seeing that those people didn't intend to come up, he didn't care about them anymore, but walked deeper with the undead puppets. Devil's Nest. Oh, interesting, all the good dogs I let go are dead. Looks like I met a high-ranking monk. In that case, I'll let some puppies out to play with him. After the insidious and deep voice fell, a group of bloodthirsty demon wolves appeared at his feet, and their mouths were drooling, almost falling off. Finally found a copy. Zhang Shuyu breathed a sigh of relief. But this dungeon entrance is different from what he imagined, surrounded by a relaxed atmosphere. People from all continents have gathered here, talking and laughing, and even set up a bonfire to eat barbecue and drink wine. Zhang Shuyu suddenly remembered the scene of the dungeon in the quarry of Xuanyu City. Although he doesn't like dealing with people, it's hard not to be happy when people see this lively atmosphere. There are no monsters around, and it is very safe. Even if there is such a large group of people, it will definitely be cleaned up quickly. At this time, there were no summoned creatures around Zhang Shuyu, and his arrival quickly attracted everyone's attention. Yo, it's from Xuanwu continent. New face. Let me take a look. It's still white pattern, not a single pattern, recruit. His black armor has basalt undertones, which can be seen by people from other continents at a glance. Hearing the movement here, the people from the Xuanwu continent immediately greeted them. Young man, come to our side, we are all from Xuanwu continent. You look like you're only in your teens, right? Why did you come here at such a young age? Was it thrown by the elders in the family? It's okay, we are here to protect you. Yeah, let's see how many levels are there. The people at the border are more bold and unrestrained, unlike those monks in the mainland who are polite and throw out their detection skills one by one. Hey, it's so boring, I even brought the isolation jade pendant. Why are you so mysterious? It doesn't matter, you tell us. What kind of practice do you do? Brothers take you to the copy. Yes, we will take you no matter whether you are an art practitioner or a dharma practitioner. Zhang Shuyu was a little scared by their enthusiastic battle. These soldiers are really bold and unrestrained. He clasped his fists cautiously and saluted. Thank you everyone, I'll just go by myself. There are people from other continents here. He can't directly address seniors, otherwise his information will be exposed. Before everyone understood what he meant, they saw him walking to the entrance of the dungeon alone and checking it out. A big man was dumbfounded and couldn't help but follow him. LV.31 Dungeon. Malong Frontier Defense Camp. Level Limit. LV.25, LV.37. Normal, 5 people. Difficult, 7 people. Asian, 14 people. Although the level limit is very loose, there is no one lower than LV.30 before the entrance of the copy. After all, apart from geeks like Zhang Shuyu, almost no one below LV.30 would dare to roam around in the Shira land. I finally saw the Asian class, I'm looking forward to it. He whispered. The big man next to him raised his eyebrows when he heard his words. Devil King. My repairs. Magic Wolf. Well-behaved crazy tail wagging. Terran. These mad dogs. Demon Wolf. I, Big Wolf, will let you know what cruelty is. Ah. The big man slapped Zhang Shuyu's body with a slap, laughing loudly. It just so happens that our team is going to the Asian class. If you want to see it, my brothers can take you there. It just so happens that we are still one place short. At this time, several people sitting by a bonfire looked over, but no one objected. Zhang Shuyu understood that these people were his teammates. Seeing that the patterns on his sleeves are white patterns and 7 flowers, he should have a lot of points, and spent a lot of time in the land of Shira. And none of his teammates objected, which also shows that they are not afraid to bring a drag bottle, so strong. Zhang Shuyu's overall evaluation of them is this. Thank you brother for taking care of me, I can do it myself. As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Shuyu disappeared in front of the entrance of the instance. And the big man was dumbfounded on the spot. What's the situation? Why did you go in? Why is this kid so reckless? This young man is confused. Isn't it safer to follow the big army? People in Xuanwu continent are all worried when they speak. And Juhu Dalu, who had always been at odds with Xuanwu Dalu, sneered and made mocking remarks. Hey, I've learned a lot. When did the people of Xuanwu continent become so arrogant? How dare they go in alone? It's just because I'm afraid that some people will go in and some people won't come out. The people in Qilin continent couldn't stand it anymore. What if someone has this strength? Don't talk nonsense. Isn't it dirty to say such unlucky words on the battlefield? HMPH. It's not dirty, it's just telling the truth. A person from 9 Fox continent stood up and threw out a talisman. The vortex at the entrance of the copy stopped instantly, and a panel was revealed beside it. General level, Team 1, number of people, 5. Difficult level, Team 2, number of people, 7. Asian class, Team 1, number of people, 1. It's amazing. A person entered the Asian class, I think he wants to die. The people in 9 Fox continent are very sloppy, no matter who listens to it, they find it unpleasant. Everyone in the Xuanwu continent, who was still in shock and uncertainty, suddenly became unhappy. How the hell do you talk to you? Didn't your mother teach you to speak? Opening your mouth is like farting. Although they don't agree with Zhang Shuyu going to the Asian level dungeon alone, it doesn't mean that their race can be bullied by others. And the big man also pulled out the sword from his waist, his gaze was dangerous. Why, can't you want to fight? The sword shone with yellow light, to be precise, his whole body was covered with yellow light. None of the armed forces are not yellow rank. The moment he drew his sword, all the teammates around the bonfire moved closer and formed in formation quickly. Seeing this group of people cooperate so tacitly, others still don't understand. Their combat experience is very rich, and they are all well equipped, with a full set of Huangji armed, powerful. The early cultivator from Nine Fox Continent was so frightened that he couldn't help taking a step back. He suddenly regretted the stupid thing he did just now. This team can be said to be the strongest in the field, why is he rushing to find a draw? And the other people in Juhu Continent turned their heads away from him, busy with their own affairs, as if they didn't know him. The monk died down and immediately bowed down to apologize. It's my fault, I was just making a little joke, please don't mind. Before you speak next time, let's put some light on the tricks. You have only a small territory in the Nine Fox Continent, and you dare to trouble the Xuanwu Continent. Yes, yes. The man wanted to keep nodding and bowing, but the hatred in his eyes finally showed a little. Snort. The big man snorted coldly and put away his sword. Seeing this, the others gathered their fighting aura one after another. The big man's eyes finally fell on the vortex at the entrance of the dungeon, and his eyes were filled with regret. Such a young man must be extremely talented to come here, but it's a pity. Still too young. There is no way to save it now. Don't other people from the Xuanwu Continent think so? But there was nothing they could do. Once in the dungeon, no one can save it. Malong Frontier Defense Camp. As soon as Zhang Shuyu appeared here, a sense of oppression enveloped him. He felt as if an invisible shackle was chained around him, it felt like an ancient battlefield. Thinking of this, he quickly checked his void storage domain. Sure enough, it can no longer be opened. So even if he is in danger, he cannot trigger the teleportation talisman to leave this place. The only way out is the entrance where he is now, or kill the boss. He looked into the distance. There were several yurts there, and there were wooden stakes on the outermost edge, and a high hill, which should be the lookout point of the camp. There are 4 figures closest to Zhang Shuyu. They have dragon heads, but they are broad and strong. They are only 4 people tall, more like Western dragons. But none of them have wings, unlike Charizard. Zhang Shuyu immediately thought of a suitable word for them, dragon beast. It seems that the task assigned by Xingzhen to himself can be completed here. The 4 figures quickly noticed Zhang Shuyu's existence, roaring and rushed over. Roar. With a thought, Zhang Shuyu released all 184 undead puppets and 85 ghost magicians. The undead puppets were extremely fast, and immediately rushed forward to meet the 4 dragon beasts, and unceremoniously raised their swords and slashed at them. And the magicians were extremely quick, throwing out their skills. Taking advantage of the chaos, Zhang Shuyu cast the detection technique. LV.36 Black Dragon Patrolman Elite Physical Defense and Attack are both 12,000, Mental Power and Speed are 5,000 and 7,000 respectively. And they also have an AoE skill, Feint. It's a feint, but it's essentially a control skill. Zhang Shuyu secretly thought that it was not good. Even with so many elite figures, wouldn't the boss be too strong? If it weren't for the fact that he had more than 200 summoned creatures, he wouldn't have dared to come in at all. Fortunately, the value of the undead puppet is strong enough, and it has its own soul fire and shadow shield, so it is impossible to beat the boss. Maybe 14 people come in and play and find it tricky. Sudden, a silver light flashed before his eyes. In an instant, the undead puppets froze in place. Good guy, did you use your skills so quickly? Dang dang dang. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 4 dragon beasts immediately attacked the undead puppet. But no matter how they attacked, the undead puppets showed no signs of injury at all. Therefore, they are still besieged in a circle, unable to break through at all. In this way, the skills of the magicians can only hit 100%, sending their souls back to the west. In the end, these patrol soldiers died. Kill LV.36 Ink Dragon Patrol Soldier Elite Experience plus 70000. Get Dragon Nails *8. Small theater. Big guy. Bah, Sow Fox is Sow Fox. 9 Fox Continental Cultivator. How dare you insult our holy beast? Big man, drawing out his sword. Ha. 9 Fox Continental Cultivator. Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? Quote. Seeing this, Zhang Shuyu frowned. What the hell is this? Can fingernails also be used as trophies? I'm so disgusted. But he couldn't help but dislike it. The spoils of war had automatically entered his void storage domain. However, he also appreciates the experience value of the Asian level, which is very impressive. The undead puppets were controlled for 15 seconds just now. Although the time is short, every second counts on the battlefield. What if there were not 4 dragon beasts on the opposite side, but 400? That's too dangerous. What's more, when the undead puppet is under control, he can't take it back. The Asian class really doesn't make sense. He sighed leisurely, and silently put another layer of 6-stage armor on himself. Just as Zhang Shuyu took the puppets and magicians a few steps forward, he was spotted by the surrounding patrol soldiers again. Fortunately, there was a forest in front of the camp, where Zhang Shuyu could hide his body. In this way, he directly used his old routine of brushing dungeons to let the undead puppets attract firepower and gather the monsters together. He followed behind and watched the 10 undead puppets running forward with satisfaction, while he took a few puppets and magicians to chase slowly. Suddenly, he sensed that the undead puppets stopped, and the progress of the map in his mind also stopped. Not good. Is it under control? He suddenly became anxious and ran in that direction. Sure enough, the undead puppets have been controlled by a feint, and are being cleaned up by a large number of dragon beasts, but there are still black ropes on them. This is not the skill of the patrolman I encountered before. He quickly looked around, and found that several dragon beasts were holding staffs in their claws, and they were chanting words, as if they were chanting some spells. And they show no sign of stopping. To be honest, this is the second time Zhang Shuyu finds it so difficult to play dungeons. But he didn't think about it at all, and sent 100 undead puppets to rush up. The sudden reinforcements disrupted the patrol's plan, and they were in a hurry, neither hitting the front nor the rear. In the end, they simply chose the new reinforcements from behind. Soon, these undead puppets were brought under control again. At this time, 3 circles had formed in the center of the battlefield, and the middle and outermost circles were undead puppets. Seeing being surrounded, these dragon beasts didn't care much, and even wanted to jump out. But some of the undead puppets on the outermost periphery were not controlled. They also jumped high, and beat the dragon beast back with a sword. And just as their weapons met, the skills of the magicians also greeted them. The Malong patrol was immediately suppressed. And those dragon beast wizards also shifted their targets at this moment. I saw petals falling all over the sky, but there was a sharp blade hidden in the petals. Awesome, the blade hidden in the petals, creative. Praise goes to praise, fight back to fight. The shadow shield instantly enveloped the ghost magicians, plus they have defensive skills themselves. This attack is just a child's play for them. So they continued to attack the surrounded patrol soldiers, and the dragon beasts that had jumped out of the fish net were so wounded that 3 of them couldn't breathe and fell to the ground dead. Zhang Shuyu immediately seized the opportunity and rushed forward. After putting on the 6-stage armor, Zhang Shuyu, with a defense value of 81,000, seemed to be in no man's land, ignoring the hidden knife in the flower, and ignoring the feint. Bones exploded indiscriminately. With all his heart, he charged towards the corpse in midair. Boom! After 3 rounds of explosions, there were no patrol soldiers left, and the target naturally shifted to the dragon beast wizard. LV.37 Ink Dragon Great Witch Elite. Only the spiritual power is high, and the skills other than the black rope or the petal rain of hidden knives. Their physical defense was very low, and they were quickly killed by the magician's mindless skill attack. If I had known about such a dish, I would have dealt with them first, but it's the same, I won't live long. Zhang Shuyu recalled the loot panel reminder. The wave just now was almost all dragon nails, none of which were needed for the mission. Etc. He seems to have seen the dragon horn. Is the drop rate too low? But it was much better than he expected. He thought he would have to brush 10 dungeons. Since elites can drop materials, there should be more others. He was suddenly eager to try. But the current situation. He sensed the situation of the undead puppets, and it seemed that they were not very good. It seemed that they had to fix them first. Fortunately, it is relatively hidden in the forest. The puppets who were the first to be besieged were in very poor condition and had already been cut with cracks. If he had arrived a little later, they might have died heroically. The shadow shield is mainly used to resist magic damage, and the 6-stage armor can only be used by one person. It seems that he can only get a new skill. Otherwise, once the undead puppets are under control, there is no way to fight back. So how to break through this level? After a short rest, Zhang Shuyu stood up and released the restored undead puppet. It stands to reason that patrol soldiers and wizards shouldn't be together, because the puppets just ran too fast and there were too many of them. That being the case, he released the 2 undead puppets and ran forward quickly. But this time he didn't run towards the forest, but ran wildly on the road leading to the camp. The puppets were fast, keeping a distance from the patrolling soldiers, and soon they pulled dozens of them. Return. When Zhang Shuyu gave an order, they immediately ran in a big circle and came back. At this moment, the ghost magicians were also ready to attack at the rear, and the undead puppets in front of him were ready. The corners of Zhang Shuyu's lips curled up in satisfaction. It seemed that the plan was about to succeed. He stretched out his hand to the sky, and all the shadows of the creatures under the sky suddenly rose from the ground. The speed of those dozens of patrolling soldiers slowed down instantly, like a movie at 0.5x speed. However, he who was almost overwhelmed by joy had already forgotten. The current attack range of shadow entanglement is 4,050 meters in diameter. Seeing that one of the patrol soldiers was about to be sent away, the sound of dense footsteps came from Zhang Shuyu's ears. Teams of patrol soldiers are running in an orderly manner, and there are still some wizards behind, at least a few hundred. But fortunately, there is a black shadow entangled with them behind them. What is slow can no longer be slow. Scared me. Zhang Shuyu patted his chest, and sent a bunch of undead puppets to attack the reinforcements who were coming. Faint. A silver glow slowly flashed before the eyes of the puppets, but similarly, their skills were also entangled by the shadows. So the puppets avoided it easily. The scene in front of me is very funny, a group of running, young people, and a group of walking, old men, fighting together. It is clear at a glance who wins and who loses. Of course, there are also puppets on the left and right sides, and they don't know where to advance or retreat, so they are controlled in place. But Zhang Shuyu obviously wouldn't let the dragon beasts have a chance to attack the undead puppets. He immediately asked the ghost magicians to throw out their skills, and dealt with the nearest batch of monsters first. Roar. Boom, boom, boom. The patrol soldier who was killed first was smashed to pieces by the dead bones before he finished screaming. And its teammates were also attacked, and suffered heavy casualties. When the old men in the distance hadn't stepped into the skill range of the ghost magician, the puppets with free hands had already greeted them. But soon, a black rope came from nowhere and tied them all together. No way, can you use skills at such a distance? Visually, there are at least 500 meters left, and the wizard on the opposite side has already thrown his skills. Zhang Shuyu was a little unbelievable, but he was also embarrassed to find that he had fallen into a predicament. Because the skill range of the ghost magician is 1/2 of that of the opponent's wizard, and the puppets are trapped in place, unable to attack at all. Now he could only watch helplessly as the rain of flower petals fell on the puppets, and the sparks from the friction between the blade and the puppets made him feel extremely distressed. Zhang Shuyu was a little annoyed. He looked at the patrolling soldier who was rushing to the front, and asked the ghost magicians to throw skills at it. At the same time, he also threw out soul fire, burning the soul of that monster. In 10 seconds, the patrolman lost his breath, and his corpse was blown apart immediately. In almost a nearby space, there were violent explosions. Patrolmen were dead, but he had no way of attacking the dozens of wizards standing in the distance. Seeing that the puppets were all fixed in place, Zhang Shuyu frowns. He can only take one risk now. That's rushing forward and casting soul fire while the mages are throwing spells. At this time, his mind was frantically calculating how many seconds he could last with his more than 80,000 defenses. Secret Realm. Nan Chengxing has already returned to his residence. His steps are brisk. Lang 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 lang, I'm in a good mood today. At this time, he didn't know that Zhang Shuyu had already chosen the Asian level dungeon to enter. If he knew, he would probably spit out a mouthful of old blood. Yo, are you back so soon? Li Jingyan drank tea calmly and looked into the distance. Nan Chengxing followed his gaze, but saw nothing. Yeah, I'm back. What do you think? 5 flowers have turned into 4 flowers. It's really a waste of money. The purple flower symbolizes a lot of military achievements. Li Jing himself is also a purple flower, so he naturally knows what a flower symbolizes. Nan Chengxing coughed and spoke firmly. It's not because Xiao Miao is a genius of the human race. The incense of our human race is no longer so luxuriant. If you can prevent one from dying, just prevent one. He spoke righteously. If he hadn't been an old friend for many years, or he didn't know how rare these military industries are, it would be impossible to see how much he cared about Zhang Shuyu. Li Jing, who is both, didn't argue with him, but just said something lightly. Did you forget something? Huh, I shouldn't have forgotten anything, right? Nan Chengxing crossed her arms and raised her head to think. Li Jing took a sip of tea and said calmly, didn't you send him to the land of Shira? You should be playing a dungeon now, right? Nan Chengxing seemed to be woken up suddenly, his eyes were wide open. The little guy won't go to the Asian class, right? Lao Li, what do you know? Tell me. Nan Chengxing suddenly became anxious and pressed his shoulder. But Li Jing opened his hand slowly, why are you so nervous? So what if you know now? Maybe he has already gone in. Even if he didn't go in, it will be too late when you arrive. It's a blessing, not a curse. A disaster can't be avoided. After speaking, he leaned on the tea chair and swayed. Nan Chengxing looked disheartened and sat listlessly in his seat. It's over. I forgot to tell Xiao Miao that the Asian level and the difficult level are 2 different concepts, and they cannot be deduced by common sense. Is he in any danger? Seeing his appearance, Li Jing couldn't help laughing. Why worry? It's just a serious injury at most, just rest for a month and you'll be fine. Besides, he can take 39 people to the barren snowfield, so he is afraid of this difficulty. After hearing this, Nan Chengxing was not only not comforted, but even more irritable. He clenched his fists and rubbed the space between his brows, trying to calm himself down. Yes, he has so many summoned creatures and so many means, he will be fine. Li Jing raised the corners of his lips meaningfully, yes. If he has nothing to do, doesn't that mean he has passed the level? If you pass the customs, the benefits are huge. Nan Chengxing's eyes lit up, and he could only pray in his heart that nothing would happen to Zhang Shuyu. Malong Frontline Camp. Kill LV.37 Malong Wizard. Experience plus 70000. Get Dragon Horn *1. After clearing away all the monsters within a radius of 4,050 meters, Zhang Shuyu was out of breath. It took a long time to get 3 dragon horns, the efficiency couldn't be lower, he didn't know how to complain. He turned his head to look at the ghost magicians, with distress in his eyes. Although they are lifeless, they get a long day and night during this time, and Zhang Shuyu regards them as partners from the bottom of his heart. After taking the ghost magicians to the mustard space to recuperate, he randomly found a big tree and asked the undead puppet to hold him up and sit down. If he had popcorn, he would give each of the undead puppets a headshot. I feel like they are useless in this dungeon, they are too useless, disgusting. He shook his head, and in a blink of an eye, he saw that the entrance to the copy was close at hand. Obviously looking at the camp that is very close, it is so difficult to fight, so far I have not even touched the edge of the camp. He didn't expect the Asian class to be so difficult, he suffered strong emotional damage. Looking in the other direction, his eyes became more determined. Isn't it just an Asian level copy? I'm a native Asian, so I'm afraid I won't be able to beat it. I want to see what that boss looks like. How powerful is it? Thinking of this, he felt that the ghost magicians had almost recovered, so he set off again. The deceleration skill of shadow entanglement was completely used by him as a monster attracting skill, and just like that, he swept over one area after another. Almost every time I hold the mentality of fighting to the death and never retreating. Of course, thanks to his 6-stage armor and shadow shield, he himself was not injured, and the ghost magicians were injured enough. Take a break each time. Finally, he came to the gate of the camp. After such a close observation, he realized that the sentry tower was just the frontmost station. There is also a city behind the sentry tower, and there are many patrolling soldiers on the city wall. These patrolling soldiers are not just melee fighters, but also various wizards and shooters. He couldn't help raising his forehead. Oh my god, why are there so many remotes? Toot! A horn sounded, and the sound waves reached Zhang Shuyu's ears. It was the guard on the sentry tower who found him. It's just right, let's clean up all the camps outside the city first. Now it can only be like this. He waited for the patrolling soldiers on the ground to come running, and then released the undead puppets to face the enemy one by one. In order to prevent attracting the wizards, he could only give up the dead bones first. Slow down, slow down. It's better than fighting to death, anyway, it's not impossible to beat. Zhang Shuyu's attitude towards the Asian-level dungeon became more cautious and no longer rampant. An hour and a half later, all the dragon beasts in these tent camps were cleaned up by the undead puppets, leaving no one left. The drop probability of mission materials is still extremely low. Zhang Shuyu is ready to play a few more copies. This round, his mental energy consumption was not as much as before, and he suddenly felt that such a slow pace seemed to be good. Passing through the tent, Zhang Shuyu came to a distance of 1,000 meters outside the city wall. He looked at the towering city wall in the distance, his eyes flickering. The two undead puppets rushed forward quickly. Crunch. They run clumsily, but quickly, and immediately catch the attention of wizards and archers alike. At this time, the undead puppet stopped, turned around and fled in the opposite direction. Several wizards raised their staffs high, and a black line jumped down from the city wall in an instant. Two puppets ran and dodged, but unfortunately, one was still tied. The other puppet immediately turned around, picked him up in the air, and continued to run towards Zhang Shuyu. Being provoked like this, a man can bear it, but a beast cannot bear it. These burly black dragon beasts jumped down from the city wall. Several shooters and wizards were chasing and throwing skills at the same time. The puppet jumps left and right, avoiding arrows and black ropes. Sure enough, it's much more flexible to control only one. The dragon beasts in the back were annoyed, and before they could attack and use their strongest skills. The puppet holding his partner in front suddenly turned around and looked at them leisurely. Before these dragon beasts had time to realize that there was a trap, they were immediately surrounded. LV.37 Malong Ice Shooter Elite. The attack and speed values are relatively high, just breaking 10,000, but the defense and mental strength are not very good. As Zhang Shuyu expected, the shooter also has control skills, which is freezing. HMPH. Fortunately, I have played Ice Shooter, otherwise I will be cheated again. Zhang Shuyu suddenly thanked him for the games he had played before. The Malongs who fell into the encirclement of the trap moved closer nervously. They are all long-range output, such a close-range attack is very disadvantageous for them. But at this time, they are the turtles in the urn. No matter how close they are, they still cannot escape the fate of being executed. The dazzling magic made them unable to find the north at all, and they couldn't catch the opportunity to release their skills. At this moment, the undead puppets slashed left and right as if venting their anger. Zhang Shuyu didn't think there was anything wrong with beating a few dragon beasts like this, he was the only one in his team, He couldn't help but poked his waist up. But why does this act so much like a person? Thinking of the appearance of Xingzhen Wangpo selling melons and boasting about her residence, he silently put down his hands. Guard against arrogance and impetuosity, Namo Amitabha. Kill LV.37 Ink Dragon Ice Shooter, experience plus 70000, get dragon blood. Close black lens bracket. Question mark question mark question mark. Dragon blood. I am not wrong, right? Zhang Shuyu's eyebrows flickered with surprise. No wonder the dragon blood has not been obtained, it turned out to be on the shooter. Zhang Shuyu, who had obtained new information, excitedly continued to let the undead puppets trick the wizard and the shooter out several more. That looks exactly like a beast master who abducts and sells monsters. Beastmaster. We don't do this, don't talk nonsense. Half an hour later, the top of the city wall had been cleaned up, not even a dragon's horn could be seen. Zhang Shuyu clapped his hands in satisfaction, put on the 6th-stage armor again, and walked into the city surrounded by undead puppets. Zhang Shuyu, who had just stepped through the gate, rubbed his eyes and looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. Why is the whole city empty? And this is not considered a city, is it? It's more like a small town. Crack. Zhang Shuyu suddenly heard a voice from the outermost, and then felt that an undead puppet was seriously injured and almost died. Seeing that the bones on the puppet's body were covered with cracks, even the faint soul fire in the skull seemed to be about to be extinguished. He quickly put it into the mustard space, looked around carefully, but saw nothing. There won't be invisible monsters in the territory of dragon beasts. Just as Zhang Shuyu was thinking like this, there was another sound of bones breaking. Isn't this attack power too strong? It's more terrifying than the ice and snow nine-tailed fox. The puppet was attacked twice, almost instantly killed. It was a burst of damage, and there was no sign of being controlled. Zhang Shuyu quickly deduced that the person who came should be an assassin-type monster. A few seconds later, an undead puppet was also seriously injured and was taken into the mustard space by Zhang Shuyu. He lowered his eyes, covering the darkness in his eyes, and made the undead puppets and magicians move closer to him. The puppets faced all directions, all staying in place. Zhang Shuyu had no way of judging how many such assassins there were. He could only speculate that the opponent was extremely fast, far above the undead puppets. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It really deserves to be an Asian-level dungeon, and it's not a place that normal people can imagine. His eyes softened slightly, his breath became more calm, and he listened intently to the wind in his ears. Crack. The 4 undead puppets were attacked at the same time, and at this moment, Zhang Shuyu had issued an order in his heart. Roar. Several bolts of lightning and frost flew out at the same time and landed in that area. The void instantly distorted, and Zhang Shuyu captured the shape of the bone struck by the lightning. It really is a dragon beast. The nearest undead puppets raised their swords and cast a thunderbolt. Knowing what he knew, he pulled out a ray of mental power to detect. LV.38 Ink Dragon Killer Elite S attack is 16,000, just 2,000 short of catching up with the undead puppets. No wonder they almost sent them away. And their spiritual power is 16,000. The reason why they have the illusion of being faster than the undead puppets is because of their skills. One of Malong Killer's skills is invisibility, and the other is Shadow Strike. After killing the target, he can hide his body instantly. But the other 2 attributes. I can't see it. Once exposed, I will definitely die. Now that they were caught by him, they could only accept their fate. The 4 killers were clearly revealed, and under the attacks of the puppet and the magician, they were all killed in seconds. Kill LV.38 Ink Dragon Killer, experience plus 70000, get Dragon Heart 1. Dragon Heart. Zhang Shuyu didn't expect that the killer could get a Dragon Heart here. Then the next step is the Dragon Core. He looked towards the end of the entire city, where the fog was so thick that Zhang Shuyu couldn't see what was inside. And there are no living things along the way. He knew in his heart that the rest of the journey would not be too peaceful. In the dark, it is not known how many killers are hiding in it. He carefully let the puppets and magicians surround him, and walked forward step by step. Along the way, there were indeed many killers lurking, but every time an undead puppet was injured, the magician would immediately cast lightning flashes to reveal their figures. In this way, although they are progressing slowly, they will not be controlled by such a steady progress, but will be much faster. It only needs to consume a small part of the undead puppets, and immediately recover the mustard space after each injury. Finally, he came to the end. It turned out that behind the mist was a statue of a western flying dragon. Zhang Shuyu held his chin and looked at it carefully. There is also a sculpture. Why is there no palace here? While thinking, fine cracks began to appear on the entire sculpture. Boom! All of a sudden, sand and rocks flew away, and the broken stones in the wind dazzled his eyes, forcing him to squint. Suddenly a coercion descended from the sky, making people feel trembling. The level of this boss is LV.40. Zhang Shuyu has never encountered such a strong monster. LV.40 Malong Town Border General, King level monster beast S attack and defense are both 18,000, the same as that of an undead puppet. And the speed and mental power are just over 10,000. This seems to be weaker than the puppet, but his 2 skills, retreat and imprisonment, are the 2 skills that Zhang Shuyu is most worried about, and they all work. His eyelids twitched wildly, and he quickly distanced himself so that this king-level monster wouldn't attack them the moment he woke up. The spider web-like cracks continued to expand, and the flying dragon in the statue also revealed its true figure. Just in the nick of time, Zhang Shuyu hooked the shadow of the boss and let the shadow restrain the flying dragon. So the painting style changed from Kai to Hu. The speed of the flying dragon instantly turned into a slow-motion picture, in stark contrast to the fast-running undead puppet. They jumped up and landed on the dragon's wings, souls, and back one after another. Thunder Wanjin shot out, and the light was brilliant, but Shishilong didn't break the skin at all. Holding his forehead, Zhang Shuyu listened to the intensive sound of hammering iron, as well as the unique sounds of various magical attacks. It stands to reason that in these few seconds, the boss has already lost millions of health bars, but the other party has nothing to do with it. That's right, regardless of how many levels the puppet and the boss are, he has become used to leapfrog challenges. The flying dragon lowered its head slowly, trying to see clearly who was attacking it, and after a few seconds, it saw clearly. It turned out to be a group of small things like ants. There is also a shadow with the same shape as myself that restrains me. Its body gradually became fiery red. Burn. In the hot and high temperature flames, the undead puppets and shadows received a kind of thrust, pushing them outward. The figure of the shadow gradually became blurred. As a result, the effect of shadow entanglement is greatly reduced. Zhang Shuyu hurriedly applied shadow entanglement again, but roar. The flames on Filong's body became stronger again. Its shadow was hidden under the flames, and the entanglement of Zhang Shuyu's shadow didn't work at all. The flying dragon with flames in its eyes spread its wings fiercely, covering the sky and the sun. Zhang Shuyu suddenly felt that he was extremely small in front of this giant dragon. In a daze, countless undead puppets who had just landed on the ground and stood firm were all blown away by the huge wings. The puppets benefited from their strong physique and were not injured. But then, the flying dragon spit out ice, freezing the entire area around it. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Just as Zhang Shuyu ordered the puppets to escape, some undead puppets were trapped in place. Quite a few of them were still lifting a leg, and turned into ice sculptures in an instant. The flying dragon was very smart, and immediately stretched out its wings to strike while the puppets were under control. I don't know how it was done, the ice cubes showed no signs of breaking, but almost all the puppets frozen in the ice were injured. However, he couldn't even take it back. With a solemn expression, Zhang Shuyu led the ghost magicians back several hundred meters, letting them continue to display their skills. Hit by these colorful magics, Filong raised his eyes a little irritably and looked over. Swish! It spread its wings and flew over with its bulky body. One breath has shortened a lot of distance. Seeing that the opponent was about to vomit frost, Zhang Shuyu hurriedly received all the magicians into the mustard space. Almost caught its way. Beads of sweat dripped from Zhang Shuyu's forehead when he managed to save the magician without any risk. Filong, who lost his attack target, was instantly dumbfounded, raised his head to think, but couldn't figure it out. It didn't make things difficult for itself, and quickly turned around to continue attacking those undead puppets, leaving Zhang Shuyu with a distant back and a thick, thick tail. Tisk! What a big heart! The attacked puppets were scarred, and the soul fire dimmed, just as it was about to be extinguished. Frost melts. Zhang Shuyu immediately took them back to the mustard space to recuperate, and let the ghost magicians out. All kinds of magic are dizzying, and without exception, they are aimed at the back of the big-hearted flying dragon. After only 2 waves fell, Filong hurriedly turned around 180 degrees. Dwang! The sound of it landing resounded throughout the city, and its mouth began to grow gradually, filling the air with mist. By the time the frost hit the ground, the magicians had already been taken back by Zhang Shuyu. He couldn't help feeling tired. How long would it take to fly the kite like this? But fortunately, he has long been prepared for a protracted battle. After all, it is an Asian class. It is too easy, but something is wrong, right? Hiss. Filong's second doubtful opening gave the undead puppets behind him a chance. It still hurts to hit the body with multiple swords. In front of its dragon's mouth, there was the breath of ice mist again. Zhang Shuyu was a little depressed. In the end, it was decided to put the puppets over there as human shields and military forces to attract firepower and release the ghost magicians again. This time, the magicians have already prepared their skills. Small theater. What is it? Let the male protagonist who has passed all the way start to embark on the road of kite flying. Brother Zhang, please give a speech. Zhang Shuyu. This is all arranged by the screenwriter and has nothing to do with me. As soon as it appeared, the skill rushed towards Filong's butt. After 2 more waves of magic attacks, the dragon raised its heavy feet and turned around, about to spit out frost again. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. No, it's only been 10 seconds, and you've released the imprisonment skill 3 times, right? Is its CD so short? Zhang Shuyu had some doubts about his life. This rascal, he blinked anxiously, his brain cells were running fast, and finally came up with a solution. When the flying dragon turned its direction again and continued to vent its anger on the undead puppets, Zhang Shuyu released the magicians and let them spread out to surround the flying dragon. Noticing this change, the flying dragon was a little annoyed, breathed out frost and threw it in one direction. But it can only hit 2 or 3. Filong's pupils shrunk slightly, and after a few seconds of freezing, Zhang Shuyu suddenly felt the hairs all over his body standing on end. He looked up, and the flying dragon was already staring at him. Swish! The opponent stretched out his wings and flew towards him. In a flash, Zhang Shuyu immediately put on a new 6-stage armor for himself, and then used his spiritual power to condense soul fire. Roar! The flying dragon made a painful sound, but the frequency of its wings flapping did not decrease at all. It adjusted quickly, and its mouth was gradually stained with layers of frosty breath. Zhang Shuyu opened his eyes wide, and just when he thought he was about to be frozen, a shadow shield appeared on him. The 6-stage armor's black on also cooperates with the shadow shield, flickering with difficulty. Shadow shield and 6th stage armor will cooperate independently. In the dark, he could feel that the flickering frequency of the shadow shield and the 6-segment armor was the same, reaching a state of resonance. It never occurred to him that he would be fine in front of the boss. Yes, how could I forget, my current defense is more than 80,000. A flash of surprise flashed across his eyes, and his breathing became short due to excitement. Good guy, it looks like I'm the meat shield for everyone. The heavy responsibility that should have been borne by the undead puppet actually fell on him. So the slender Zhang Shuyu and the huge and bulky flying dragon clashed, and the picture was comparable to a Hollywood blockbuster, The Dragon and the Warrior. Countless icy breaths were frozen on the ground, but the place where Zhang Shuyu was standing was not cold. It flapped its wings frantically, but was beaten back again and again by Zhang Shuyu's rhyme soul sword. Filong was extremely annoyed, but he couldn't use any other tricks. Now Zhang Shuyu relaxed a lot. After fighting for tens of seconds, he just felt that the Asian level boss was nothing more than that. Feeling that the undead puppets were out of the frozen state, Zhang Shuyu quickly took them back into the mustard space, and immediately released them again. I saw the puppets appearing in midair around the flying dragon, raised their swords with both hands, and slashed at the flying dragon. Magicians appear in the distance, throwing spells at dragons. The flying dragon in the fiery PK didn't expect to be attacked at all, roared and flapped its wings left and right, trying to send them flying. Just as his steel-hard wings flapped left and right, the puppets and magicians had already returned to the mustard space to cultivate and rest comfortably. In this way, Zhang Shuyu kept cyclically retracting and releasing his military power, casting soul fire, and slashing dragons with his sword. Zhang Shuyu suddenly felt the thrill of fighting. For a long time, because of his summoning skills, he had positioned himself as a summoner. He almost watched the summoned creatures fight from behind, and occasionally went up to add a firewood. But now, he suddenly felt that he could be a swordsman, a magician, or even a magician who kept adding shields to people. Ghost cultivator necromancer, the concept of this way of cultivation gradually became clear in his mind. He can be anything he wants to be. It's not because the outside world says what he should be, that's what he is. Walk your own way in the cultivation world as you like, that is the strongest game player. There is no Krypton in this game, everyone is fair. If he was an alchemist, he could throw the alchemy furnace out and hit people, turning himself from a magician who only knew how to heal or boost people to a magician. If he is the moonlight messenger, he can also continuously strengthen the staff and turn it into a murderous weapon. Why is it necessary to limit the cultivation of skills and the cultivation of dharma? Qin Nu can also kill people. As Zhang Shuyu became more proficient in battle, Filong's eyes were a little surprised. Why is such a weak human race so powerful? The soul fire kept flying out, the Yunhun sword hit the flying dragon repeatedly, and the puppet and magician also frequently lost their skills. The flying dragon was extremely depressed, but he couldn't find a way to break through the predicament. After the two sides fought like this for 20 minutes, it let out a long cry of resentment. Open black lens bracket kill LV.40 Malong Town Border General, experience plus 400000. Get yellow level ink dragon inlaid jade blade Asia yellow level ink dragon kunai Asia yellow level ink dragon gloves Asia dragon core *5, tier 2 activation token, title, Dragon Hunter. The 3 yellow level weapons all have full attribute bonuses, various types of increase or attack weakening by at least 50%, and they are all one of the Malong Asian suits. The title also has the effect of adding all attributes, and it can also reduce the skill consumption by half. But once someone obtains the title, the entire cultivation world will not lose it anymore. As for the second order opening authority token, it is a must-have item for monks when they step into the second order. A beam of light descended from the sky. 4 million experience, directly sent Zhang Shuyu to LV.28. It is rare in the world for a person to be promoted to level within a day after coming to the land of Asura. Now he doesn't bother to check his attributes, but looks at the void storage domain. Yellow level armed forces generally are similar to the most trashy yellow level armed forces. You can buy more than 200,000 spirit stones, and you can buy them without a military rank. However, the price of the yellow level armed difficult has increased many times. It is the same as the top yellow level armed on the market. It costs around 2 million spirit stones, and at least white patterns and 5 flowers are authorized. Not to mention the yellow level armament Asia, its overall level has caught up with the level of the green level armament, but it can only be worn after LV.36. Zhang Shuyu had no choice but to check other things. Now that he has collected half of the materials, maybe if he does it again, he can complete the task assigned by Star Venerable. After activating the title trigger, all his attributes increased by 500 points. And all the skills, except for the dead bones, all stepped into LV.28 with him. At this time, the average attribute value of the undead puppet is 20,000, the spiritual power of the ghost magician is 40,000, and the other attributes are 10,000. Zhang Shuyu is now familiar with the composition of this dungeon, and I believe it will be much easier next time. Let's rest first. After several hours of fighting, there are still many undead puppets who have not recovered. Although the Asian level is indeed difficult, but now it seems that it is not difficult for him. And he is destined to use the time talisman, why not use it on the Asian level? He would not do such a loss-making business. When I wrote this chapter, I was a little tearful. Once I became a middle laner in qualifying, and a weak woman just relied on the piano girl to win the MVP at 16-3. As soon as Zhang Shuyu appeared at the entrance of the dungeon, the dark light of Luduanjia flickered. The strong smell of blood rushed to his forehead immediately. In addition, there is the sound of howling wolves, and the sound of dismembering human flesh and clothes being torn. The scene in front of him made people feel like he was in hell. Not far away, the sharp fangs of the demon wolves flashed in front of his eyes, and the ground was full of stumps and puddles of blood. Several demon wolves noticed him, turned around cautiously, and approached him. All the races were surrounded by demonic wolves, and the entrance to the dungeon was unfortunately just outside the encirclement. Seeing that a few demon wolves were about to activate their skills, a sword pierced the sky and fell straight down. Pierced the back and chest of a demon wolf. Zhang Shuyu was a little surprised. This sword seemed to be the weapon of the strong man with white stripes and 7 flowers. Sure enough, following the sword were sharp arrows, a long spear, and a long whip, which wounded and restrained several demon wolves approaching Zhang Shuyu respectively. Young man, come here, it's dangerous to be alone. The big man led his team. While confronting the wolf, he moved towards Zhang Shuyu. With Luduanjia, Zhang Shuyu would not be injured at all, but he did not expect that someone he did not know would lend a helping hand to him in such a critical situation. Seeing Zhang Shuyu in a daze, the big man was a little anxious, and accelerated towards him with 11 teammates. Before reaching him, a healing technique and a shield were thrown directly at him, making him dumbfounded. He looked at the dozen or so people, and a warm current flowed through his heart. Little monk, why are you in a daze? Let my sister see, are you injured? Brother was scared to death, but luckily nothing happened. If our Shuangwu continent lost a young genius, it would be so distressing. The big man and his teammates quickly surrounded him, speaking sincerely and caringly, completely forgetting that the little monk had just come out of the Asian-level dungeon safely and soundly. It felt as if they were really his brother and sister. It turns out that the monks in the Shuangwu continent are so united. The big man pressed his shoulder. This little brothers and sisters will stop the wolf for you first, and you should trigger the teleportation talisman to return to the camp. Zhang Shuyu came back to his senses, but shook his head. I won't go back, please ask here. As he spoke, he looked around. The big man pursed his lips and frowned. It's not those vile things from the devil's den that let out such a bunch of crazy wolves. Then, why don't you leave? He could tell that these people were powerful, and they wanted to break through the encirclement of the demon wolf in minutes. The elder sister Faxiu, who can heal her lips and smiled, it can't be helped, who made our leader be kind-hearted. Seeing that the person who just came out of the dungeon was killed, he couldn't bear it and decided to stay here to save people. Her tone was relaxed, without any worry at all, as if the demon wolves around them were no threat to them at all. It was only then that Zhang Shuyu noticed that these 13 people were all white-striped and 7-flowered. At least they had spent a lot of time on the battlefield, so they were naturally not afraid of these lowest-level demon wolves. Ah! A scream came, and immediately, Zhang Shuyu saw a prophet call out a water mirror to project the scene over there. There is a foxfire mark between the eyebrows of the screaming person. Someone in 9 Fox continent had an arm bitten off. Everyone rolled their eyes, and the big man pouted even more. It's just an arm, it can't die. Even if a limb is broken, as long as it does not die, it can be regrown by medical practitioners after returning to the camp. Zhang Shuyu had seen Juhu continent's malice towards Xuanwu continent in the Snake Clan dungeon, so he naturally understood why this group of people didn't have a good attitude towards each other. Had he been one of them, he would have rolled his eyes. But now he doesn't have a tacit understanding with this group of people. The prophet used the water mirror again, and after confirming that there was no one inside, he told the big man. The worry hidden in the brows of the big man suddenly disappeared a little. Prepare to break out. He gave an order. Several law repairers added shields, added boosts, and even cast healing and clarity again to ensure that everyone's state is at its peak. And the practitioners are ready to fight. Seeing that Zhang Shuyu was still there, a poetry master smiled and said, "Brother, why don't you go back?" Zhang Shuyu shook his head again. "I still want to make a copy." Crunch. There was a dense creaking sound, and the 191 undead puppets also threw their skills at the 85 ghost magicians wearing worn-out robes in front of hundreds of magic wolves. Ice and snow freeze, lightning strikes, blazing sun burns. The group of people was instantly emptied. Exclamation mark. Several Dharma practitioners were so surprised that they stopped their blessing actions, and the practitioners were also dumbfounded, turning their heads stiffly and looking at Zhang Shuyu. Is this such a young little cultivator so powerful? Which summoner can call out more than 200 thugs in an instant? There are 4 or 5 are very powerful, right? Stand back. The 13 soldiers immediately obeyed the order, and took a step back. When they stood still, they realized strangely that they would involuntarily obey Zhang Shuyu's command. Before they could think about it, there was a bang-bang explosion from the pack of demon wolves in front of them. Seeing pieces of demon wolves being blown away, the turbid air was pushed far away by the aftermath in the air. Dazzled. No, brother, shall I pinch you? Are we dreaming? It shouldn't be. Zhang Shuyu walked forward slowly, and the 13 people who felt a strong sense of security followed closely. There was an explosion every few steps. Wherever the group passed, there was not a single wolf alive. On the arms of Zhang Shuyu's clothes, 1 or 2 patterns began to light up around the white biangwa flowers. Not long after, the disciple card on his waist also lit up. Points. 100, military rank, white pattern Yiwa, reward, contribution value 1000, merit point 5. Points. 200, military rank, 2 flowers with white patterns, reward, contribution value 1000, merit point 5. With a casual glance, Zhang Shuyu immediately understood the main source of merit points. It seems that he will soon be qualified to worship the Shinto peak. The sharp-eyed man saw the disciple card and quickly shared his new discovery with his teammates. This should be the younger brother. Look at his disciple card. Huh, it's really the disciple card of Xuanwu Holy Land. Wow, it's actually a junior. Sudden, Zhang Shuyu stopped in his tracks, and stopped using the bone bomb. Because after cleaning up nearly 2/3 of the demon wolves, the remaining group of monks were besieging other continents. Zhang Shuyu doesn't want to change from saving people while saving points to killing people while saving points. The undead puppets swarmed up, almost killing them with swords. Those who were rescued suddenly were finally able to catch their breath, trembling and adjusting their breathing, and some of them slumped on the ground with lingering fear. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.